Hello, making a video. It's dark outside, and but I got some light from the computer screen, and that's good. And I need to talk about my thoughts and feelings and insights about existence, and I'm glad that I can do this with my computer, and I can say whatever I want to say, and if I don't like the video, then I can delete the video afterwards. And if I think the video is barely okay, then I will put the video on YouTube. And it also feels good to talk to the computer, because it's obviously not just the computer listening. It's also potentially a video that other people could later on listen to. And I also think that my entire computer is monitored at all times. I always feel just a little bit more at ease when I turned every program off and closed the lid of this Chromebook, because I had it set to turn the Wi-Fi off in the computer when it's in sleep mode. So whether that's actually happening or not, I don't know. There could still be another program in it from hackers that listen to whatever I say in my living room while I'm sitting on the couch talking to Paul, even if the lid is down. So could be that I'm constantly being monitored like that, and when I'm on the internet, I constantly feel like whatever I do, whether I pull a booger out of my nose or do my OCD rituals, I feel like they might be watching me. And so, but we're living in an era now of surveillance and surveillance, so everything is being monitored, and it may not all be on social media, but it may be monitored by hackers and spies and corporate spies, and like there's anything to spy. But it could also be partly paranoia, but that at least that's a paranoia that has some validity behind it, so it doesn't come completely as just some crazy dream or crazy idea. So obviously there are people that are monitoring other people, or that I think that every computer may be monitored by at least spy programs that are then reporting people's preferences to the corporations, which then in turn know how the market situation is, and they will know when a market fluctuation will happen, much sooner than they ever used to figure that out in the past, now because of these spy programs. And people shouldn't be all alarmed about this and upset, because first of all, this is something that no human could ever be controlling or policing. This is pirating. This is an ocean, the internet, and there is no police. There's also no interpolice happening. There is no galactic police happening. Everything is out in the open. Okay, most of the stuff that's going on and way into people's private lives is out in the open, and it just is part of this era, and there is nothing to get all stressed out about it. This is just the situation. So most people are not of any personal interest to anyone. The only thing they want to know is what people's preferences are, and what they're going to be buying and who they're going to be voting for. So they want to know all of this as soon as possible, so that they can be always, as Bill Gates said, can be ahead of the wolf pack, as he worded himself. So that's what he is aiming at. That's what all the corporate people are aiming at. And so in this process, they're not looking over your shoulder and looking at you pulling a booger out of your nose. They're not interested in that. They're only interested in whether you're going to buy Kleenex tissues or whether you're going to buy Earth First tissues, or it's the brand of tissues that they're interested in, that you're going to be possibly buying in order to pull a booger out. So they're not interested in your idiosyncrasies, your OCD, in your little weirdness or whatever, or fears or sexual activities on the internet or whatever people are doing. So, but then there are hackers that are hater based, and that are hater based for their own neurotic personal hater activity, and like a person that would hate Eric Jacobs, who is harmlessly traveling with his cat in a motorhome, and he has like thousands or tens of thousands of haters for innocently traveling with his cat Jax in the motorhome. So let's just first of all become very clear and aware about human psychology, in this, and the pathology of what's happening in haters. The psychopathy pathology in people. Let's dig into it and find out why. I like to find out why things are happening. I am not so easily appeased with someone saying, oh, they're just neurotic, or they're just haters, or they're just no good. That's not enough for me. And unfortunately, for some people, that's enough of an explanation. Oh, they just like the color blue or green, or they're just haters, or you have a personality conflict with your grandfather. Yeah, I know that. I just would like to know why. That's kind of like who I am. I like to find out why that is. I like to know why my grandfather bullied me. Okay, I like to know why the haters hate Eric Jacobs, who has never heard them, who has never done anything to them. He doesn't even know them, and who's just a completely innocent person, sweet guy. So who likes nature, he doesn't like to be enslaved anymore to his job. So he quit the job and moved into a motorhome. Then he had a bunch of problems on his journey, switched motorhomes, got a van, that didn't work out, got another motorhome, then he got a newer motorhome that works better, but motorhomes break down. I know that from my own experience, because my husband and we traveled in a motorhome for about 3 years. Okay, so, and we didn't have a home during that time, so we went through this. We experienced this and all the hardship that comes with it. But at that time, I wasn't on the internet. I didn't make videos about it. I wouldn't even have time for that, because just living in a motorhome is it's very time consuming by itself. You're just basically constantly busy with a motorhome that's breaking down, and with people that even deliberately sabotage the brakes and whatever it's called, like the brake fluid and the whatever they're called. Kragen Auto Parts was a word mentioned in every sentence. Yeah, it's like, oh yes, let's go back to Kragen. Let's go back to Camping World, or to that mechanic or that mechanic. And then they would sabotage stuff. And, that's seems to be, this is part of this existence as a human. We're surrounded by other humans. And it seems like the other humans have a lot of issues. Okay, and they like to sabotage someone else. And one person will say, well, they're just no damn good. People are no damn good. I'm not easily appeased with that statement. It's just something that bugs me. So I want to know why that is. Why someone would sabotage a stranger they don't even know. I want to know why. What's going on there? What's happening? Is it jealousy? So with this one guy in LA, I thought I was sitting on edge there while the guy was working on the brake fluid, and Paul was standing next to him and telling him that we're gonna be traveling and going to interesting places, and I could just feel the tension in the air. That guy working underneath the motorhome, and he put sand into the brake fluid, hoping that we would have an accident. and we would be maybe driving downhill, and the brake system would quit. So I know the blue God is protecting us. In all of these situations that we have experienced, the blue God protected us. I've been through unimaginable suffering, psychologically, also physically. And things could have always very easily turned out very badly. But it didn't, because of the blue God protecting us. So it's kind of like many times in my life where I basically slithered past a cliff that went down into the abyss. One more inch and I would have fallen, sort of, to use that as a metaphor. So, and the suffering was extreme in my life, absolutely horrific. But then again, out of that suffering, we learn, we become very crystal clear about certain things, about certain people. We see the indications. We see the indications in people's facial postures, facial expressions. The same person can look like a completely different person in different photos according to completely different mental states. So I'm learning all of this. Someone will say, I don't like your mouth or something. And it may not even be the shape of the mouth itself. I don't know. I don't have pretty mouths, but I'm just saying this in general, not in regards to my face, but in general, someone could have, let's take someone with a beautiful mouth, like, I have to be very careful what I say on the internet, because I don't want this to be hijacked and run off with into the wrong direction, which is totally not intended by me. So one has to be so careful and walk on eggshells nowadays. So let me take the Pope. Okay, so Pope has pretty neutral face, right? So a pretty neutral person, really, So I can get into the details with him too, but I'm not going to, because that's none of my business. But there's a lot of things that I see, so of course. But let's just take this as an example. Let's take this very, good-looking guy, and let's say someone will say, I don't like his mouth. That may not be in regards to the way his mouth is shaped, but maybe in regards to his facial muscle tone. And we have, thousands of different muscle fibers in the face that will tense up according to a mental state, not even just an emotion, that too, but even according to permanent mental states. For example, right now I'm going through grief, and I don't feel like smiling. Okay, so when I'm in this mental state of grief, I've been shopping now since Dave died about 3 times, and the first time we went shopping, I was just, I was in a shock state, complete shock state. Then someone had hacked into my bank account, and all of this, like, at the same time happening, and I didn't even really know how to deal with this very well. And then the second time we went shopping, I was in a state of extreme hatred. And both the first 2 times shopping, I cried in the store. I could not hold the tears back. I was worried about that happening, but we needed to go shopping, so I had no choice. Right? So, but yeah, who cares if someone sees me cry? People saw me cry. No one would come up and say, "Hey, what's going on? You need a hug?" Not one person. But maybe also because they feel they're shy, they're insecure, they have their own worries, their own fears. They're occupied with their own troubles. They may be their brains may be completely loaded with their own feelings and problems. Right? There may be a judgment. There may be, I might remind them of someone. There may be all kinds of reasons why they would not come up and say, "Hey, do you need a hug?" It would be nice, to give this to a stranger, this kind of compassion. It would make the world a better place. But I understand that people are having their own problems, and their own reasons why they would not go up to someone. I personally do. I see someone cry, I offer compassion and love. But that's, I can't expect that from other people. I have never seen anyone do that. Particularly not in a store where you go shopping. So one time I was crying in the gym out there in Westchester in LA. And in the locker room, and I was crying in the locker room because the entrance clerk guy treated me so bad. He bullied me so bad. And so the older lady in the locker room, she saw me cry, and she said, she was compassionate, and she said, "What's happening? Do you want to talk? And what's going on?" And I told her that the guy bullied me. But when I told her that the guy bullied me, I could see that I felt judged by her. As soon as I said the guy bullied me, I felt judged by her. Because I noticed in the United States that people react judgmental to someone who complains about someone else. But if we never complain about anyone else, then the problems will completely fall through the grid and will never be addressed because of that. And then we'll end up with much bigger problems down the line. If we don't address the problems right up front. And I can't help it, but because I'm a highly sensitive person, when someone bullies me, I can't just bury this under the rug. I will sit there, it will smolder, and it will come out. There's nothing I can do about it. So the second time we went shopping, I was in a state of extreme hatred. I also had been bullied in chat rooms real severely by Muslims that told me they wanted to cut my head off and that women should be drilled back into behaving like women, whatever that means for them. to cater to them hand and foot and wear chador. That's what they view as women behavior. Okay, that's not what I view as women behavior. And when a woman lives for her own physical needs, and when a woman, whatever, has physical needs of any sort, they are so male centered. Those people, most of them, the vast majority of men in the chat room, they are so. And this one time, there were only men in the chat room with me there. I was the only woman, but I didn't care. I stand there completely alone sometimes, with my views, with my criticism, with my complaining, and with my accusing. And Satan, means the accuser. Satan is a Hebrew word, and that means the accuser. Okay, that could be anybody, anyone. I see a lot of people accusing, and there's a lot of double standard. A lot of people accusing, but they don't want other people accusing. There's a lot of whiners, but they don't want other people to whine. So a lot of double standard happening. A lot of double standard happening in men towards women. So they don't want the accuser. So they think that the needs of the woman are completely male-centered. They're like, the woman's needs are there to please men. And all of these things, all of this, my hatred that will drive me to the chat room, and then the conversations that go completely sideways because of me also, of course, I'm in pain, I'm suffering. I will not use nonviolent communication in that moment, and I will get terrible, violent communication back, and much worse than I would ever talk to anyone. Much worse. I would never deliberately hurt someone, particularly not going against their parents or their mental state or whatever, or anything personal like this. Never. When someone is angry or feeling hurt or this, I would never bully someone for that. But they sure do with me. Any kind of vulnerability, anything about me, my photo, my anything, my sadness, my grief, anything, they will immediately use and bully me with. So that doesn't mean I have to do the same. No, I'm not going to do the same. But I wasn't Buddha nature anymore. I wasn't non-violent anymore. I said to people, if you come at me with your sword, I will cut your head off before you get to me. Okay. And I have that in me. Okay. So I'm an animal too. And I have the Medusa inside of me that protects us. And that is not a picnic when that Medusa comes up. That's my lifesaver. It's my guard. And I'm infinitely grateful for her. And she's a lover. Medusa is a lover. Medusa is an animal mother with a huge mother instinct. Most men also don't understand women. They don't understand where they're coming from emotionally. To most men, women are mysterious and they hate him. They want them and they hate him. They want their love, either physically or emotionally. They want to connect, but they don't understand the women. They say mean things to them. Like this one guy saying to me, "Shut up." One Muslim guy said to me, "Shut up." And I said, I will not be shut up by anyone. And then he says, "What do you have against me?" I mean, that's like the epitome of non-communication. It's like he's mean to me, harsh with words, violent with words. I would never say to someone, "Shut up." I would not even say to a hater to shut up, because I don't censor anyone, but they censor me. And then when I say I can't be shut up, I'm not even being mean when I say I can't be shut up, I can't be silenced. But he perceives it as a rejection against him. He's mean and expects me to welcome him with open arms and say, "Hey, let's talk on Facebook," or whatever, I find that very, very strange. That's a symptom of people who are completely unconscious in their behavior, in their way of communicating with others. They're mean to others, and that was not, of course, not the worst person that I met. There are people that are absolutely verbally abusive, and then think that the woman thinks this is somehow hot, or they all hook up with them. And then when the woman doesn't hook up with them, they feel hurt. It's like, don't they ever look at the way they have communicated with the woman? They think women are like rubber dolls or something. If you want rubber dolls, some men are violent to rubber dolls, which I also oppose. I think this is awful. We shouldn't be violent to anything, not even objects. But if they want to do that, that's better than doing it to a living being. Okay? So, it's much better than doing it to a sentient being. And we women are sentient beings, just like the men. We are animals. We're primates, just like the men. Okay, we have brains, we have central nervous system, just like men, and horses and dogs and cats and all living beings, okay, and many other types of animals. Sentient, highly sentient. So dogs are just as sentient as we are, equally sentient. I need to point this out many, many times. I will point this out in many of my videos because I see that a lot of people don't seem to understand that very well. So pigs are equally sentient to us. Would you butcher a human? No, but you do it to a pig who's equally sentient to you and me. Just the other day I saw a video. I only saw 3 seconds and I feverishly turned that off and had to skip further in that conversation because that was just an intermittent sequence that they showed about factory farms. And I wasn't quick enough to skip it right away. So I saw the first 3 seconds and there was a pig. It was actually in a factory farm in Germany. There was a pig, male pig, juvenile, they had some kind of halter on the head, and they led the pig into the slaughter facility. And as soon as the pig entered into that room, he stood up like with the hooves like this against going further into it. He was stemming himself with all of his force backwards and against going any further, and they forced him like this and forced him forward, and with several people because they are big and strong, the pigs, and he stemmed himself against it and he started screaming. That's when I had to turn it off. There's no way. I had another nervous breakdown after I saw that, just these few seconds. I had another nervous breakdown because I'm highly sentient and I can't handle it at all. Okay. And when I see these kind of things, I don't want to be here in this world. I don't want to be in a world where living beings are violated and killed against their will. You can clearly see that pig is exactly like you, like everyone else. The same exact feelings and thoughts and fears. If you are led into a slaughter chamber, this is exactly how you behave. Okay. The way that felt to me to see that pig being forced into that slaughter chamber, to see him scream, and his entire body going into this total resistance to that situation because he knew what was coming. He could smell it also. Man, that's brutal. Okay. Makes me not want to exist, and so it's the activism that I'm doing. It's a conversation that I have with people. I'm trying to help. I see that people are not listening. The coldness in the world, the indifference, the suffering in Australia of the wild animals. The entire planet is in agony and suffering, and I'm worried about the future. I don't know what's going to come. The grief over my dog Dave is infinite. There are moments where I just sit there and I feel like, okay, this is more than I can handle, all of this. It's like getting up every day, making something to eat, going back to sleep, not having any energy at all, total exhaustion to the point of dizziness. And the feelings that come up are, what's the point? What's the point for me to exist? What's the point for me to exist if I can't even be of help for the world, if I can't even help anyone, if I'm too sensitive to even watch those video clips, or to even read all these different case files. I ask myself, what's the point? So then I was thinking about going to Holland and getting assisted dying or euthanasia. They have those facilities in Holland, and it's legal. Also for people that have suffered their entire lives with severe mental illness and depression. So they have that for people. I watch a couple of programs, and man, are the religious people against that. Boy, I felt so bad for that one woman. She was bullied, I believe, from one of her family members to the very last breath that she took, even in that clinic. He had the nerve to bully her towards the very end, instead of becoming clear about the situation with the needle in her vein already, and the euthanasia drug being inserted. And that guy had the nerve to bully her to the very last breath. I made me so mad, I felt like killing him with my own hands. I wouldn't do it, but that's the emotion that came up. I felt so sorry for that young woman suffering her whole life with depression, being lying down on that couch with the doctor next to her, inserting the euthanasia drug. And then for her to be bullied to the very last moment like that, and the disappointment in her face about that bullying, that he would have the nerve to bully her like this to the very end, this incredible disappointment in her eyes. I felt so sorry for her, so sad. What she needed was, she needed someone to be there. If I had been there, I would have held her in my arms. I would have held her tight. I would have said, I love you. If this is your decision, I'm here for you. I'm here all the way through. I would have tried to talk her out of it, if I'd been there. They always have people go through this for like a week. They have counseling sessions every day for about a week. And then if they're still completely determined on the last day, then they follow through with this. But they first have them there for a week just in case someone changes their mind. If I had been there, I would be there for her non-stop. I would have hugged her, given her foot massages, would have held her, would have talked to her, would have, not in a forceful way, tried to persuade her not to, but I would have been there for her and maybe made her feel differently. Maybe because she looked like she was 20 or 22 or something. She had a whole lifetime ahead of her. At least I would have been there for her and given her infinite love. So maybe she would have changed her mind. But if she was determined, I would have been there for her, and that's what she needed, someone to be there with love, whatever they decide, they need love. And this is a message that I have for the whole world, is even if that doesn't come naturally, and I've been also attacked by people lately on YouTube, under YouTube videos. I've been attacked very badly. And I wasn't in the right mind state myself. That's why I was attacked, because I was making a fuss about stuff I shouldn't have made a fuss about. But they attacked me for making a fuss about something. And they attacked me in a much more violent and brutal way than the stuff they claimed against me. So it's like they attacked me with a tank for me saying something that that was a little bit overreactive, just a little bit. But they come after me with the tank. They come after me with like an overkill overreaction. And they don't see the double standard in it. They don't see it. So I observe all of these things, and it's important for me to talk about it and address it. I would like to know why they attack me like this violently, this viciously. I want people to start to ask themselves, and that's the introspection process. Not to be constantly overreactive with other people and always lashing out at other people and always like focused on the other people. No, start the introspection process. Do it now. Go within your own mind. Forget about the other people. Forget about how they look, how they dress, how this or that, or whether they're chubby, or whether they look like that, or whether they have a different opinion about the world, or whether they're whatever they do. Forget about the other people and go into your own mind and ask some questions. Why were you overreactive with this? Why were you so triggered by that? Ask yourself. That's the only way we can start this healing process. And start to treat people with much more respect. Okay, so then we can all start healing. If we constantly are mean to each other, and it will never end, it's this constant back and forth battle. How can we heal this? How can I heal it? How can you heal it? How can we stop the wars? So the only way is for people to actually go within their own minds and start asking some questions. Why is that person? Why is Eric Jacobs triggering you so much? Well, find out. Why am I triggering you? Why is anyone? Why do you hate Donald Trump? Because you were told to hate Donald Trump? Stop this reacting to things. Start going into your own minds. Do some meditation. And then you can have a clearer mind. And then your mind will have some space for you to see reality and truth and what's actually happening. Are you being manipulated, and why are you manipulated? Who profits from that manipulation? Why do you follow that religion? Do you need the identification of it? Why do you need that identification with that group? Why can't you stand on your own 2 feet? Okay? So ask all of these questions. And the most important message that I have for the world is you must love your animals and your children. You cannot skip that. You cannot be preoccupied with your own desires and needs when you have a living being in your life who completely depends on your love. Okay. My mother completely missed the opportunity to give me unconditional love. She obviously was not well to give me that unconditional love. If you don't give the unconditional love, you create a monstrous suffering for that living being for the rest of their life. Okay, you must give unconditional love to your animal baby and your human baby. 100% unconditional love, and that means you live for that other living being. You don't. That means you don't live for the boyfriends, for the tweets, for the comments on Facebook, for the admiration for this or whatever. Okay, that means you live for that innocent baby animal or human baby that you bring into your life. Okay, whether it's your biological baby, which I don't recommend because there are too many. Okay, or whether it's another species or your own species, but someone else's baby. If you bring an innocent being into your life, you have to be there for that innocent being 100%, completely. You have to live for that living being. Okay, and it's beautiful to live for that living being, but become very clear before you bring an innocent living being into your life, whether you have that mental capacity, whether you have that mental clarity, that space, that unconditional love, that infinite love that you can give to this living being. Okay, you need to really know that before you make the decision to bring living being, dog or rabbit or cat or human baby into your life, or maybe a monkey baby, or could also be a reptile. They have feelings too. They're very sensitive too. They can suffer too. So it's a sliding scale of consciousness. So we're definitely on eye level with pigs, horses, dogs, rabbits, all mammals. Okay, that's for sure. And then many other types of animals as well. Okay, that hasn't even been studied that in that much depth yet by science. But I know this intuitively because I observe, I research, I watch. Okay, when you're attentive, you see And if we want to make the world better, then it starts with you. It starts with you being there unconditionally, loving, giving unconditional love to your innocent living being. Okay? You guys take care. Bye bye.